looking and reviewing and doing swatches for this beautiful palette that just came out with Pure Cosmetics times Raw Beauty Kristi. I'm super excited about that because I've been watching Kristi for quite a while now, and she's one of my favorite YouTubers. I think she's just so hilarious, and I'm just happy for her to have this great collaboration, as well as she's pregnant right now. I just think that's so amazing. When she did the reveal video, I cried. But anyways, I'm just going to do something a little different because I've noticed that everybody and their mama has been doing eyeshadow looks with this. Obviously, that's what you're supposed to do with it. But since I got mine a little bit later, I just got it yesterday, and there's already so many videos with eye looks up, I thought, let me do something a little different. So I looked throughout my collection, and I took out palettes that I would say are comparable to this. So in case maybe you missed out on getting this palette, the resale was, I think, yesterday or the day before or something. And it is at Ulta though, so if you have missed out on it and you still want it, I think it's still at Ulta. I think it's still in stock at Ulta, so just to let you know. But for those of you that, you know, with a crazy launch, weren't able to get a palette, I mean, I was waiting all day, literally all day, and I just gave up. Tried again at like 1 o'clock in the morning, was still on hold, fell asleep, woke back up, and was able to get in and get this palette. So it was insane. The website wasn't able to handle everyone. Hopefully with the restock it was better, I don't know. But if you were one person that was not able to get this, no fear, no worries. You might already have these colors in your collection. So that's what I'm doing today, just showing some comparisons, swatches, all that good stuff of some neutrals, some colors, and then like one palette that I think could kind of have both of these in there. So if that's interesting to you, you know, just keep on watching. Definitely check out some more videos on my channel. I recently just did a review of the Solo Look palette, the 90210 Dylan Brenda Kelly palette. Check that out on my channel. It should be already up. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on some palettes I think could possibly dupe this. I didn't have any like exact dupes, but if you have these palettes, these are palettes that I think are pretty well known and maybe you already might own. So maybe you don't need this palette. Although I do like it. I do like it. And I do have a look at the end of the video, just something super quick just to show you how it looks on my skin tone, which this is the look. So if you're interested in that, just wait till the end of the video to see how the shadows apply. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first palette I'm going to compare is the Zoeva Caramel Malonga palette. Sorry if, ooh, don't want to blind you guys. So it looks like this on the inside. So as you can see, very reminiscent of the neutral side of the Kristi palette. But it's not an exact dupe at all. So there's not a yellow in this one. And then some of the browns look similar, but when swatched, they're not exactly the same. But there are, I mean, you can get a similar type of look if you use this palette to if you use the neutral side of the Kristi palette. So I'm going to show you what swatches I felt were kind of close. So on the bottom is the Raw Beauty Kristi times Pure palette. And then at the top is the Zoeva palette. And so you can see there are quite a few similarities. For example, this dark brown, that dark brown. This one has more shimmer in it though. Those two browns pretty similar. This shade is different, with this one being a little bit more like rosy type, almost leaning towards pinkish, and this one's not. The shimmers are pretty close. This one is a matte and that one's a shimmer, but this color is pretty close. And then these are pretty close in my opinion. Now you're missing that yellow and like this kind of deeper brown here. So again, like I said, I don't find any exact dupes, but if you already own this one, you might not need to get this Raw Beauty Kristi one because you can see they're pretty close together. Alright, let's continue. Alright, so the next palette I thought to compare it to the neutral side of the Raw Beauty Kristi palette is the Milani Most Loved Mattes. This palette is, sorry again if I'm blinding you, all mattes, as the name suggests, and it's very neutral. Now this one I found to be a lot more neutral toned, as what like undertone well, versus this one, like even neutral cool tone versus this one was there's a lot more, in my opinion, there's a lot more warm tones in here. So it's again not an exact dupe, but I found some shades that are comparable. Again, we're missing that yellow, just not in there. But with that, I did find a couple that would be quite close if you wanted to get a similar look. Again, not going to be the exact same though, but if you wanted a similar look, this might be one that you could try out. So you have like kind of orangey tone. Again, this one's more orange and this one's more like a brown orange. Those shades are pretty comparable as well as that. You're Not My Real Dad. So this side is the Raw Beauty Kristi palette. I'm sorry, should have said that. But You're Not My Real Dad, there's a pretty close dupe. This one right here is a lot more warm than this one. But again, like I said, you can get a pretty similar look with some of the mattes from the Most Loved mattes from Milani, Okay, the last palette I'm going to compare with swatches is this one from ccolor Cosmetics. It is called the Sundown Palette. This is actually a dupe for the Natasha Denona Sunrise or Sunset palette. I forgot, but the big one, the $129 one. This is a dupe for that, and it's from ccolor Cosmetics. So this is actually a dupe being duped for a dupe for something else, but this one I think it might be the most close of all the palettes I've said so far. So if you have the Natasha Denona original palette, or if you have a dupe, like for example this one, you might not need this one at all because there's some similarities, and you can definitely get a similar look using this palette if you were not able to get this one. So as you can see here, this is the Raw Kristi Beauty palette here, and this is the Sundown palette from ccolor Cosmetics. Again, not exact dupes, but on the eye, these colors will look very similar. So you have You're Not My Real Dad is very close to this one. Told You, very close. This one, you do see the color difference there for, this is B in the Raw Kristi palette. And then this one, this palette doesn't have any names, by the way. So the shimmers are not exactly the same at all. This one is definitely more gold, whereas the Raw Beauty Kristi one looks like more like a goldy champagne color. These two, again, are not the same. This one's more reddish compared to the one in the Raw Kristi Beauty palette. These are not the same either. This one is more peach, I would say, in the dupe palette. And then the orange shades are not the same. This one's definitely way more orangey red versus that one. And then the yellows are not the same either, but again, comparable. So if you have the Natasha Denona Sunset palette, or Sunrise, whatever one it is, both of them actually, she had two, you might not need to pick this one up, or you could get a very similar look using the Natasha Denona palette or the dupe. So last one I'm going to do with swatches. Really quickly, some honorable mentions, just some palettes I think that are somewhat, you know, not exactly, but like the Nubian by Juvia's Place is a neutral palette that if you own it, this one's very affordable. You might be able to get a similar look, just get a yellow from somewhere else, and some of the other shades that are missing. Comparable, definitely comparable. I also wanted to mention this palette. This is another dupe from ccolor Cosmetics, but it's a dupe for the Natasha Denona Safari palette. So if you have that, that could be comparable as well. Some similar tones in there. Again, not an exact dupe at all. Let's move on to the colorful side though, because there are some that I want to swatch for that as well. When finding some dupes for the colorful side, I found this to be at first a little bit harder, but then when I started getting going, I found some that I think are kind of comparable. Again, no exact dupes. This palette is pretty original. I mean, not like super original, you know, but yeah, for what I have, I didn't find as many dupes, exact dupes, but I did find some that are very comparable. So I'm going to first compare with the Juvia's Place Zulu palette. So this one is super duper rainbow like this one, but it's like not the traditional rainbow. So when I compared them, I did see some that I think could be comparable shade wise. So if you have the Zulu by Juvia's Place, you could recreate the looks that you see with this Raw Kristi Beauty one. So if we look at the swatches, so this one is the Raw Beauty Kristi and Pure palette. This one is the Zulu. As you can see, there are quite a few shades that are quite comparable. It's like the red shade. The Raw Kristi Beauty one is a little bit more, quite a bit more pigment, but you can actually build this one up. And this one's more like I would say like a strawberry red, whereas this one's more like a red. The greens or the teal colors are quite comparable. Again, this one has a little bit more pigment. The Juvia's Place ones are very pigmented as well, but what I'm saying is this one is a little bit more intense with the color. The oranges are a little, they're not exactly the same. This one is more like almost like a red orange, or a little hint of red in there, whereas this one's more like a true orange. This shade had nothing comparable, neither did this, but there is a pink shimmer that's kind of shifty, a little bit like pinky gold. So I thought to just put it by the pink and the shimmer. Like if you would mix these colors, that you might get something similar to this, which is what I did underneath my eye actually. And then the yellow, quite similar. Now these two didn't have anything comparable in the Zulu palette, but if you put these two side by side, definitely you can find something, get a similar look with this palette than with that. Alright, let's go to the next one. Okay, the next palette I'm going to compare is this one from Moira. I always say that wrong probably. But it's the Dreamscape palette, which is a rainbow palette. But like the Raw Kristi Beauty palette, it is not a traditional rainbow. It's different, and I like that. So this obviously has way more shades in it than this one. But I think you can see that there is some comparison between the two. Definitely, if you wanted to get a look with this, you could definitely dupe it out probably with this. Like I said, no exact dupes. Definitely these are a lot more like punchy, bright, vibrant type of, whereas this is more of a muted rainbow. So obviously not going to be exactly the same. But there are some comparable shades. And this one is also a bit cheaper than this one. Now obviously you're not getting any neutral shades, whereas this one you get 2 palettes in one. But if you were looking just for the colorful side and you just like the colors, this could be something that you could think about. Let's look at the swatches. Alright, so looking at the swatches, so this is the Raw Beauty Kristi palette at the bottom, and on top is the Dreamscape palette. So there are quite a few comparable shades. So the red in Kristi's palette is called Flavor Town, and I compared it to this red in here, which is called Sharp. So those are pretty comparable. Again, no exact dupes. The blues I found hard to do because these blues in here are quite different, so you don't really have an exact dupe. So you are getting unique blues in these palettes. But I did go ahead and put Land of Dreams next to this blue from the Raw Kristi palette, which is called Garden State. And then for this blue down here in Kristi palette, it's called Hurtful. And for this one, I compared it with this shade Mine in the Moira palette. Not exactly the same, as you can see. Not exact same. But again, on the eyes, you might be able to get a very, very comparable look. For the purple, that's pretty close. I compared it with the shade Logic. I think those are pretty close purples. The orange was also one that didn't have an exact dupe. And you see this shade here, which is called Clear, is more of a like neon orange. I don't know if you guys can tell on camera, but it's very like neon-y. And then this one right here is called Right Mind. I also swatched this one up here because, like I said, this one seems like more of a red-orange to me. And that one I think is kind of comparable. So I swatched 2 for the orange. This one doesn't have a comparable shade because this palette is all matte. There are no shimmers. The pink shade I swatched was called Surreal in this palette and is the Side Effect shade in the Kristi palette. Quite comparable. The yellow also was kind of a bit harder because these yellows in here are brighter, sort of more neon-y, pastel-y almost. And this yellow in here is definitely a dandelion, like golden shade versus these ones that are more punchy. But I went ahead and compared it with this one right here called All There in this palette, and then Dandelion in the Kristi palette. So they're not the same. And the whites, I mean, white is white, right? So this one called Just in here, and then the white in Kristi palette called Lumos are very, very similar. And actually they both are very pigmented and nice, which some whites just don't get like that. And these are both good whites, both of them. So yeah, pretty comparable with that one. Alright, the last one I'm going to compare is actually not super close, but there are some that I thought were comparable. You got sort of a muted rainbow here. Again, same thing here. And there are some shades that could be comparable. So this is the, let me tell you what it is first. The Run Wild palette by Tina Yong, which was a collab she had with BH Cosmetics. I bought this. I really actually use this palette. I probably am going to declutter it soon. But I just thought about this when I was thinking could be comparable. So let's look at some of the swatches. So again, looking at this, you don't really think that these are going to be very good dupes for each other, but once you get to swatching them, there are some similarities. Okay, so if you already own this palette, you can get something similar. Like I'm saying, not an exact dupe. So here we go. First is red. Okay, the bottom is the Raw Beauty Kristi palette again. The reds, obviously not exactly the same, and this one is actually a shimmer. So again, not comparable exactly, but again, we're going for just the same vibes. This color in the Run Wild palette is actually like a really kind of greeny color, but it's still like a green blue. So I just thought to compare that with both of those shades that are blue in the Kristi palette. And again, not an exact dupe. Purples are pretty close, but this one is a shimmer in the Run Wild palette. The oranges are not close to me at all, but I just went ahead and swatched it. Neither are the shimmers, and actually this is a highlighter in the Run Wild palette by BH Cosmetics, and so they're not very comparable. Pinks, again, are not exactly the same, but again, similar. And then the yellow, again, not exactly the same, but quite comparable. And then there's no white in the Run Wild palette. And you also get face stuff with this palette. So I guess you do have some neutrals. So comparable there. So yeah, that was the last one. I wanted to do comparisons with swatches, but I do have some other honorable mentions for the colorful side. Oop, should not have worn this shirt. It keeps slipping. Okay, this palette, which is fairly new, it is the Come Play With Me palette by Notoriously Morbid, which is a play on the Shining movie, Come and Play With Us. This one I think is quite comparable color-wise to the Raw Beauty Kristi palette. Let me show you guys a couple. So I'm going to just compare it to the, again, this is the Raw Kristi Beauty. So there's like a red in here, but again, this is a shimmer. Those are somewhat comparable. This blue-green shade in the Come Play With Us palette could be comparable to that shade. Yeah, more that shade. There's there's also a purple shimmer in here. Let me just go ahead and put them over on this side. So those could be comparable. Again, same vibe. There is an orange in this palette as well. Again, this one is more of a red orange like I was saying. And there is a mustardy yellow, which might go better with the other yellow in this palette, but again, you can see the comparison. No pinks in this palette. There is a shimmery shade that might be somewhat close to that shimmer in the Come Play With Us palette. This shade right there could be comparable to the shimmer in the Raw Kristi Beauty palette. And there's no white. And the blue shade, maybe this one could be comparable. Let's see. Not really. But as you can see, we got some similarities with this palette. In this palette, I just thought they looked similar. And then I do have the Burger palette out as well. This one was super popular, last year? And I bought it. Don't ever really use it. But there's some similarities. Not exactly. This shades are leaking like some oily stuff. I heard some other people say that they did that to them too. But you do see some similarities like the reds, that yellow up there. But yeah, this one's not that close, which is why I didn't want to swatch it. But again, if you have it, you might not need to pick this up. Alright, the last thing I'm going to compare is the ideal of having a neutral and color. So this is the Dupe 2 palette from ccolor Cosmetics, which is a dupe for one of the many MUA palettes, the Life's a Drag palette, I think, where it's half neutral and half colorful, which is sort of a similar ideal to this. So I just wanted to show you guys this. If you have this palette, again, you've got neutrals, you've got color, you got the white, you got the pink, you got the purple, you got some blues and yellows, very similar, and then you got your brown neutral shades, and you have two shimmers, just two shimmers, and the rest are mattes. So very similar ideal to what this palette is, with your colorful side, your neutral side, and just two shimmers when all the rest are mattes. So I thought that one was pretty comparable with the ideal. So if you have this palette, or the original one, the Manny MUA, you've got the similar ideal. You can make looks that are similar to the ones you would get from this palette. Hopefully you got some ideals about, this palette. You can dupe it out with some things that are already in your collection, which was the whole point of this video. But now I'm going to show you guys a quick look with this, sped up, so very quick, and I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Okay guys, I'm going to do just a quick little thing with the palettes, just to show you guys how to do. It does apply, but there's been so many videos recently by the time I got my palette that I'm showing how this palette works. So I'm doing something a little bit different with this rest of the video, but I did want to just show quickly like what kind of look I did do. So this part will just kind of be like a sped up quick little thing with the shadow, so you guys can see how it looks on my skin tone. And again, we're going to be doing some comparisons in this video. So let me go ahead and stop talking and show you guys the eyeshadows. Alright, I'm starting with the neutral side. I'm going to go in with the shade Copper Boxes and just put that into the crease and blend it out. This shade is very nice. Great crease shade. A bit dark, but I can use other shades to kind of lighten it up. But yeah, so next I'm going to go in with that lighter shade, My Whole Heart, and just lighten up the edges and blend it out. And also highlight the brow bone there. Yeah, so just kind of just blending everything out before we go into the next shade. Alright, next I'm going into the shade Told You, which is a more warm brown shade. There is a bit of kickback in the pans, but I didn't notice a whole lot of fallout from the matte shades. So I'm just using that to warm up the crease and just blend everything in. Going a little bit further down than the other color, but keeping it pretty much in the crease and a little further down. Same place, basically, as the other shade. And then blending those all together. using my little color cleaner. I'm using that to clean my brush, and I'm going into You're Not My Real Dad, which I just absolutely love the name of that shadow. I love when Kristi says, "You're not my real dad." But anyways, I'm using that to deepen out the outer V of my eye. This is pretty much what I do with every look, is the same pattern, going with my crease, darken the outer corner. And so I'm using that shade to just deepen up. That shade is pretty easy to use. Didn't see really any patchiness on this eye. My other eye I did though, which is weird, but I always see patchiness on my other eye. But this eye went perfectly fine. So then I'm taking that that light shade again to just map out where I want to put my shimmer, as well as blend things together. And now I'm going to take a flat brush, and I'm going to go in with the shimmer that is called Golden Ticket. And I'm going to put that on the inner part of the eye. I'm spraying it to get the most intensity from it. Maybe I should have tried it dry first, but I went ahead and sprayed it to get the full intensity. And then I'm going to go back in again, dip into that gold shade, and go over it again. This shade, the shimmer shade, is really, really pretty. I like it a lot, and it goes perfect with these neutral tones. So as you can see, I'm doing a very neutral look, but I am going to play with the color side in just a second. After I'm done blending everything together to make sure that shimmer goes seamlessly into the matte shades and there's like no harsh line. So I'm blending everything in. Clean my brush up, and I'm going to go into the colorful side now, which you will know is colorful by the sticker on the front. I'm going to take the pink. I always love to use pink shadows. And I'm going to use that on the under eye, the lower lash line, and just pack that pink color in with a small detail brush. I love to put pinks on my lid and on the lower lash line. That kind of sicky look, that works for me. I love pink eyeshadow. But we're going to go in now with the white and blend that into the pink to maybe lighten the pink up. What I wanted to do was kind of get not that brightish pink that was in there, and kind of get like a more muted, not muted, but more like baby pink color. So I'm putting the white and the pink and mixing them in layers. So I did pink, white, doing some more pink, going to do some more white, as you can see here. One thing I want to say, guys, also is that throughout the video I was saying Raw Kristi Beauty, switching up the name. I am so sorry about that. Don't know why I did that when I watch her all the time, but anyways, I'm going into the shimmer now. So the shades I've used so far, the pink shade is called Side Effect. The white shade is called Lumos, which is a Harry Potter reference. And then the shimmer shade on the colorful side is called Cafe Disco. And I'm just going to put that on the lower lash line to give a shimmery effect down there with the pink and white. Super cute. I like this a lot. And yeah. So when you're doing that lower lash line, make sure you connect to the top. I'm actually going to put a little bit of dark brown at the outer corner, just so that we have some continuous, you know, from the lower lash to the lid. It's just continuous and not like breaking up. And then again, I'm going over with that pink shade, just the pink, to kind of give it a little bit more pinkish tone, really close to the lower lash. Lastly, I'm going to put some pink into the inner corner. And I'm going to put some white over that, blend those together. And then I'm going to take actually the gold shimmer from the neutral side and put that into the inner corner on top of that, so that again there's some similarity between the lid and the lower lash line. So I'm going to put the gold from the neutral side in the inner corner on top of that pink shade. Alright guys, here I am back with the final look here. Super cute, super easy to use. I really do like the palette. I think it's super cute that there is a double-sided palette. I like that there's a neutral and a colorful side because I love both. I more tend to go for colors, but I work as a teacher, so these neutrals will come in handy on days when I just want to tone it down. I usually don't go too crazy when I'm at work, but I do wear color to work. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but for sure there are days when I just want to have it nice and toned, simple, easy, and that neutral side is perfect for that. And then when I want to get, you know, colorful, crazy, I can pop in some color, do an all colorful look, or just use one of the colors and some of the neutrals to just tone down these colorful shades. So I really do like this palette. I think it's very sleek, it's cute. I love that there's handwritten drawings on here from Kristi. Especially love that Harry Potter. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so that one, it just, you know, goes right to my heart. Love that, and I love how she made it her own with the eye and the eye brush. But I think it's just a really cute palette, and I like how creative it is, like with the colorful sticker there, and then the rose gold one there, so you know which side you're on. Super cute palette, quite great for the value of what you pay for it, that you get 2 palettes basically in one. And I do like the look I came up with. I didn't know where I was going with this because I didn't really want this to be like a look type of video. I wanted to do the comparisons, so I just wanted to show this quickly. So I just kind of just threw something together. I like the shadows, I like how they smoothly went on, blended really nice, but I don't know if I absolutely love this look. I think it's just okay. So I'll just show you guys a close-up, and then we'll just end the video. So that's how everything looks. I think it's a beautiful look, but it's just not, I think I want to try something else with this palette and get a look that I love more than this. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this and you were able to get something out of it, I didn't want to just do, you know, everybody and their mom was reviewing this palette and doing looks, so I just wanted to do something a little different and give some swatches and comparisons in case you were thinking about getting this and you haven't yet. These are some comparisons of palettes that you might already have, and you can get similar looks to this. So hopefully this video was helpful. Definitely give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Check out some more videos on my channel. I will link them down in the description box, and I will check you guys out later. Stay safe. Bye bye. Adios. Alright, when finding some for, oh my goodness, I just dug my finger in there. Lord. Of course I would dig my finger in the shadow. Okay. Again,